Well, Sam Wilson here, and I know many of you have been losing sleep over how to make these little shims uh, for these NAPCO front ends that go on that planetary knuckle. I think these were originally supplied in 2, 5, and 10 thousandths. And I happen to have 3 of them left over from another project, but I'm gonna need some more. So I'm fixing to make some shims. I'm gonna start out by making 2 shims that are 20 thousandths thick, because I think that's what, right now, the way the upper bushing is set up, it's about 20 thousandths off the surface. Some yahoo before just put a bunch of goopy forma gasket. I don't know how it was working, but I'm gonna unscrew that and make them proper. So I'm gonna just walk you through how I do that. Hey, before we get started today, please take a second to subscribe to the channel. And if you're already subscribed, well, you're freaking awesome. While you're at it, tap the bell, and that way you'll get a notification each time I post one of these exciting videos. And that way you'll never miss a new episode on this or any future builds. Finally, if you like the video or you learned something today, well, give it a thumbs up and drop me a comment in the comment section, because you can imagine how much I like to read all those comments. And your likes and comments really do help me reach a broader audience. So with that, well, let's get started. So here we are at the Shine Up shop, and first thing I did was I went in and measured out all of these components. So I got the inside diameter of this, which in kind of the average of all of these comes out to be about 2.18 inches. Another thing I did was I got the diameter of these holes, which are kind of 0.452. That's technically 29/64 for a drill bit. I'm going to use a 15/32 bit just to get that just a shade bigger. And then I came in and measured the center lines. So I measured from one side to the other of each of these, and I got effectively the center lines for these 4 bolt holes. I then sketched all that out on this handy sketch, and I'll see about posting this or getting an image of it that has all these dimensions, because this is going to tell me how to move the drill press, and I have a digital XY readout on the mill. This is going to tell me how to move this thing in order to drill these holes exactly where they need to be. The second thing I did is I went and I cut me some 20 thousandths shim stock, because I want 2 shims that are 20 thousandths. So this is right at about 23 thousandths, 25 thousandths. So that'll be close enough to set this up on the top, and then I'll fine tune the bottom bushing shims. So I cut a piece of shim stock, and then I cut me 2 pieces of just, I think this is 3/8 plywood, to sandwich this in here, because I want to get this thing, I want to get this sandwich so when I drill through this with these bits, it doesn't distort and rag the shim stock. So I've got the shim stock sandwiched in here between this with a registration mark on it, and I'm going to just clamp the shit out of this, maybe. So I've got this thing as close as I can get it to sort of centered up on my index marks, with my shim stock in there. And then I'm going to tighten this up nice and tight to hold that. So I just made a little shim sandwich here, and then what I'm going to do is come over here, and here I'm going to chuck up this board in this mill vise. So that's nice and stable, and I've got my 15/32 bit in here. So the next thing I'm going to do is index this table, and I have a digital readout up here. Trust me. And I'm going to index. I'm going to get me a center line of this template, which if I go from center to center of the edge, that's one edge. I'm going to zero that. And that's the other edge right there. So I'm 370, 360. Let's just call that 370, 373. So if I find the middle of that, 373 is about 1.5 inches and 35. Would be a 1.8. So that's more or less the center of that block. So I want to put that to 0, and then I want to find the edge of my metal, and the edge of that metal is right about there. So we're going to 0 that. So my first hole, I'm going to make this piece right here. So my first hole I want to drill is I'm going to come over 361. .85. And 361. So if you just look here on the digital readout, that's 3.61 and 0.85. So that's gonna let me drill these holes exactly where they need to be. And I'll then move off of this for my other dimensions. So I'm gonna turn on the mill. I have a stop set right here so I know how far to go down. So I got one. Now I'm gonna move over. That bottom hole is 1.7 inches across, so I'm going to come back to my center and negative 0.85 inches. Right there. Now I'm going to go back to my center line. And I'm going to come up there, make me do heavy math. 0.361, 1.720, 1802, 2.081. So 2.081. 2.81, and that looks like the correct hole. And we're definitely moved over correct at 1, 2, 2. Moved a little bit. 5. I'm going to attempt to just do the same thing and do this twice, one on each end. I'm going to take this drill bit out. And like I said, this was a 15 30-seconds bit that I sharpened with my handy dandy drill doctor before I started. And then I just have a bimetal hole saw, and this is a I'm not sure which size this is. This is 2-190, which drills a hole that is roughly 2-112. 2-112 is, well, that's basically an 8. So this is 2 1/8 inch hole saw, and I've done this before, and this works out to be just about the right size. For this center hole. So we needed to come up from the center line 1.440. 1.4. Oh, so that should be right in the center of all that stuff. What I don't know is how to make sure my drill bit doesn't drill through my table, but I think I'll just do it by feel. That cut the center out for me, and that cuts out a fairly nice hot little disc. And I'm just using this sandwich so it makes it nice and clean. So now I'm going to come down here. And I got to find the center of this, which I'm going to have to move over. 6, 6, 6, 6. So that's my new center line, and I'm going to come back up 1.44. And get back on my center. .44. got 2 of these made. Let's see how we did. Okay, so now these holes are precisely in the right place. What I'm going to do now is just go scribe the lines and put it in the sheet metal shear and shear it to the shape of this other product, this other template. So here I am at the Azo shear. It's really a jeweler's shear. My great friend Mike Coyle donated this to the Shine Up shop. Got some health issues, not going to allow him to do any more silversmithing, so he contributed to the shop. Greatly appreciated. And all I'm doing is just lining up the score lines. This is a superbly nice shear. I don't ever do anything really big on it. I'm gonna just do lightweight sheet metal and silver, in this case copper. I have a heavy shear for doing heavy work, but I think the shear is probably about a $4,000 shear if you went out to buy it. So it really is a nice gift. Came with a bunch of other nice giftery. All of which I use from time to time, making stuff. So, just so you see what I did, I just traced the outline and see the little score line. So that's the score line that I'm using to cut these. So now I have these 2 pieces, and I'm gonna just go over there on the grinder and just, you know, the flat disc, and just ease the corners so that it matches the other ones. Okay, I've passed these through the burnishing wheel here just to knock the burrs off from the drill. But as you see, I now have 2 shims, 20 thousandths thick, and these match these shims, which are the original shims. I think these are 2 5 thousandths. One of these, this is really flimsy, that's a little thicker, and that's in the middle. So I think these 2 are probably the same size maybe, and this is probably 10 thousandths. So kind of hoping that once I set these up, when I put this in there, I can use 1 or less of these on the bottom and get the preload correct. If not, I'll have to make some more shims that are this thickness, but to do that, I'll probably use Plestigauge to figure out what size shim, and then I'll come make 2 more shims to fit that. So there you have it. So to recap on the tools required, I have a old school Bridgeport mill that is turning at about 180 revolutions per minute. And this has a digital readout, which moves in an X and Y. It's not a CNC, but it does move X and Y. And I needed a couple of C-clamps, some wood, the hole saw, which is really a wood bit, but it's bimetal, and a micrometer, and some shim stock, ruler, scribe, and the, whatever, I keep forgetting what size this is, 15/32 drill bit. But with the, you know, if anybody has $10,000 or $15,000 worth of shop equipment, you too can do this. Hope you enjoyed it. If you got any comments or questions, let me know. Took about probably an hour and a half to measure all this out and drill it and fabricate it. So It's not quick, but at least they're correct. Have a nice day. I thought I'd, as an epilogue, just make one more little comment of why you're doing all this, because this is this front knuckle clamshell. I don't know what you actually call it. And this is the cap. And this race is what sits on the little bronze bushing that's on the top of the spindle. And this race moves up and down. So you can take this and move that up and down to where it's got a different thickness. So, you know, here I've tapped it down to where you can see that it's got, I don't know, maybe not quite an eighth, about 1/20,000th gap in there. And it's important that this piece comes down on these bushings, and then the bearing at the bottom comes up, and the tolerance here is a few thousandths. If it's too tight, it binds that bearing. If it's too loose, the front wheel is going to wobble when you're going down the road. The Yahoo that had this apart before just put a bunch of gasket sealer and bolted it up, and it's just amazing that it worked at all. You also had gasket sealer between where these two clamshells come together, and that's not a oiled surface. I mean, that's just a mated surface that is machined and should just be bolted up tight. So, you know, this whole hub has grease in it. It doesn't have oil. So it's really important to get these shims right so that this thickness is correct. So what I'm going to do is put the shims on here that I made. They're going to go right on here. And then I'm going to bolt this thing down on there. And it's going to push that race. And I'm going to set both of these up at 20,000ths. And then I'll work the bottom with the bearing to make sure it's the right clearance with the right preload. So that's kind of why this is important. And like I say, if you got any questions or comments, well, give me a buzz. I'm a complete expert on this. I've now done 2 of them, so I'm a complete expert, sorta. Not. Well, I hope you learned something today. If you did, consider subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to ring that bell so you get notification of future videos that will be equally as exciting as the one you just watched. Now, before you go, give me a thumbs up on the video and drop a comment in the comment box if you got any kinds of questions or just think you got to sound off on something. If you have something specific you want to know how to do, well, leave me a comment and I'll see if I can't capture some content for a future video. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you back here for another Resto-Rat episode real soon.
Download the Resto-Rat app today to begin managing, tracking, and documenting your restoration project.